And happy Tuesday, August 22nd, 2023, and welcome to a brand new edition of what I like to call the Isolation Cabin. I am your host, the vegan you believe in, Kurt Cadet, aka Conscious Kurt, in the flesh as always. And here on the Isolation Cabin, I like to talk about the different forms isolation takes on, whether positive or negative, the effects it has on us and our mental health, and what we can do to have a better understanding of it, to have a better quality of our lives going forward. I want to talk to you guys today about an issue that's been very close to my heart over the last year or so. And that issue I want to talk to you guys today about is the issue of people constantly living in fear. Fear creeps up to us in pretty much any aspect of our lives. But the problem isn't so much the fear itself. The main problem is the amount of power that we give to it. Yeah, because many of us will be put in scary situations from time to time, or situations where we should be afraid from time to time. But how much power and how much of our strength we give to that feeling of fear and give to that feeling of being afraid is what makes the difference between that fear taking over and ourselves taking over. Yeah, that fear shit can feel powerful and also feel overwhelming. But when you give in to your feelings too much, that feeling being one of them, then you could be setting yourself up for a life of misery. A life of what ifs. And more than anything, a life of no fun. Because that fear bullshit, for as many things as it cost us, that I'm going to get into in a few minutes, it definitely cost us a lot of time we could spend having fun. So what are the different types of fear that overwhelm people and consume people to the point where they give all their power and all their energy away to it? What are the different types that this consists of? Well, one of these types of fear, and I could definitely relate to this throughout my life, is the fear of failure. I'm not going to sugarcoat it or anything, and I will be honest. Failing sucks. Rejection sucks. It is not a good feeling when those things happen. But it's one thing when those things do happen to you, and then it's a whole nother thing when you either expect them to happen before they do, or even worse, you become so afraid of it that you don't even try. People have a fear of failure when it comes to starting a business idea. People have a fear of failure when it comes to asking someone out. People have a fear of failure of quitting a job they hate or leaving a relationship they're not happy in. That fear of failure shit can follow you anywhere. Anywhere. But the worst thing you can do is give that fear of what might happen or fear of getting rejected the amount of energy and the amount of power over you to the point where you're afraid to even try. You're just so scared of that rejection, you're so scared of failing, you're so scared of what could go wrong that you just hold back. And when you do that, you're not only not living up to your own potential, but worst of all, you're not really living. And like I said, it does suck to get rejected. It does suck to fail at things you try at. But what sucks even more is letting the fear of that happening hold you back from trying in the first place. Shit is mad whack. Another fear that a lot of people have that they give into and that in many ways hinders their life is the fear of the unknown. This concept also ties into being afraid of change and also being afraid of what change could bring. People will be so afraid of change and so afraid of making a change, mainly because they're scared of what's on the other side of it. And what's on the other side of it is something they never experienced before, maybe something they never felt before, and they're scared to experience that. And it goes back in many ways to people growing up to think that change or something different or something new is something to be afraid of and something to run away from and something that you should avoid like the plague. I know things in situations that are unfamiliar to us can be scary sometimes, whether it's going skydiving for the first time or moving to a new city or something as small as even trying a new food. Trying new things and experimenting with new things, yes, there is a bit of a fear that does come along with that. But if you always let that fear win and you let that fear keep you from trying those new things at least once, then you won't be living, you'll simply just be existing. Yeah, sadly, a lot of people are afraid to try new things, listen to new music, go to new places, get out of their comfort zone. That uncertainty of what's on the other side of it can be so overwhelming that they won't even be willing to give it a chance. And when they're not willing to give those things a chance, they end up cheating themselves out of something that could be fun, out of something that could enhance their life and teach them new things. Yeah, by being that afraid of the unknown and what's on the other side of it, in many ways you're missing out on life. When you don't try new things and when you don't put yourself in those uncomfortable situations, you're never going to grow. You're never going to make progress. And also, you're just not going to live life to its full potential when you give into that fear. Another fear many people give into that also hinders their life and holds them back in many ways is the fear of making mistakes. This also in many ways ties into the fear of failure thing, where it gets to the point where you're so afraid of what could go wrong and how badly things could turn out that you're afraid of even trying something even if it is the wrong move. Yeah, big reason why a lot of people don't take chances and try new things and go for the things they really want is because they're afraid they're going to mess it up. They're afraid they're going to say something to mess it up, do something to mess it up. And because of that fear, they just stay in the same place. And you have to understand, in life, everybody's going to mess up at one time or another. Whether they mean to, whether they don't mean to, regardless of how smart they are or how dumb they are, everybody eventually messes up. But you know what? It's okay. If you're so afraid of making mistakes that you don't even try and you just stand there in the same place, you are not going to have a life that's happy, fulfilling, or the one that you actually really want. That's what it's all about. Making mistakes is a part of living. It's a part of life. And if you make a mistake, and if it's a mistake that's not catastrophic and that's not going to burn the whole world down, who cares? Who cares? Just own up to it, say, hey, I messed up, my bad, I'll do better next time, and then just move on. But sitting in a corner, being so afraid of making an error, fucking up, or doing the wrong thing, the more you do that, the less you are going to get done. Making mistakes and messing up is how you learn the right way to do things. And you'll never learn how to do those things the right way until you stop being afraid of making mistakes to get there. And lastly, a big fear that people have that consumes them and in many ways does hold them back is the fear of death. Hey, I'm not gonna lie, the thought of death also creeps me out too. It's definitely a thought I don't like to dwell on very much, think about very much, whether it comes to me and especially when it comes to the people that I love. But unfortunately, death for all of us is inevitable. All of us who live in this world one day, unfortunately, are going to pass away. Hopefully that date is a lot later than sooner, and we get a good enough amount of time to enjoy our lives here as much as we can. But realistically, that is the final destination for all of us. And while some people may understand that on paper, their actions and the way they live their lives can say something else. Obviously, I don't want to die anytime soon. I don't want anybody close to me to die anytime soon. I'll take any precaution to keep that from happening. But there's a difference between preventing death and being afraid of death. Being afraid of death to the point where you're afraid to take chances, you're afraid to go on adventures, you're afraid to try new things. And even with the COVID thing a few years ago, being afraid to even go outside. Look, the world can be a scary place. I'll be the first one to tell you that. There are a lot of scary things out there. There's a lot of things to be cautious of and be careful of. But being afraid of death to the point where you stop living, you stop having fun, and the thought of trying anything new or doing anything new scares you to death, then that's not a healthy place to be. That's not a healthy way to live. And as long as you're that afraid of death, how much life in you do you really have? As much as I may not want to die anytime soon and do my best to avoid it as long as I can, I do understand that eventually I will pass away. But even though I will, I don't want the fear of that day coming to take away from the days I do have left. And I hope many of you who are listening to this podcast right now understand that too, that even though death is inevitable, you can't let it kill your will to live. Yeah, there's a variety of things that cause people to just give in to fear in all these areas and just, in many cases, stop trying, whether it's attachment issues, whether it's lack of confidence, past traumatic experiences, or in some cases the way people were raised. It could be many a thing that causes people to live in fear to that degree, to the point where they pretty much stop living their lives. And as strong as that fear may feel sometimes, and overwhelming as it may feel, a worse feeling is allowing it to win and allowing it to take over your life. And the more you do that, the less of a life you're going to have, if any at all. Now that I've broken down the different types of fear there are that people give into, and also maybe some of the circumstances that cause it, what are some of the things that people can do to not give into that fear so much and overcome it? Well, one of the first things they can do is get out of their own head. I've said this many a time on my podcast. I've talked about this on various different subjects before. The main place where a lot of our problems start and a lot of our problems grow is in our own head. When we constantly think about it, when we constantly dwell on it, the main thing we accomplish by doing that is making those problems a lot bigger than they really are. And that's a big thing with that feeling of fear. That feeling of fear we get most of the time is usually all in our minds. But if you take a second to take a breather, relax, and not give those kind of thoughts that kind of energy and that kind of time, chances are they won't have that same power over you. And chances are they won't spiral out of control and take over your whole life. But a big step to not letting that happen is learning how to get out of your own head. You have to really be careful of the time and energy that you give to certain thoughts and certain feelings that do pop up in there. Because your diet doesn't consist just of what you eat every day. It also consists of your thoughts and the amount of time and energy you give to certain thoughts over other thoughts. So if you're giving your time and energy to thoughts of fear and being afraid of what could go wrong and being afraid of rejection, chances are you're not going to be living a healthy life. And chances are you're not going to feel healthy or be healthy. But if you give that time and energy to thoughts that are positive, thoughts about what could go right, and thoughts of things actually turning out well and turning out in your favor, then over time you will feel healthier, and just in general, you will be healthier because you are feeding your mind healthy thoughts, giving energy and fuel to healthy thoughts, and rejecting the unhealthy ones. Yeah, so when those thoughts of fear and those feelings of fear come at you, and sometimes I know they can come at you very hard, just don't dwell on it any more than you need to, if at all. Because I promise you, the less time, the less attention you give to that bullshit, the more time you will have to actually live your life and not let fear hold you back. Another way you can stop letting fear dictate your life and hold you back from actually living your life is getting out of your comfort zone. I talked about this a few minutes ago about the fear of the unknown and how a lot of people fear trying something new and doing something new. When you actually do the opposite of giving into that fear and actually try new things, experience new things, give new things a chance, then regardless of how it turns out, that fear shit won't be able to faze you. Because you took a chance, you tried something, and whether you liked it or not, you're not afraid of it. And that's the thing. Because if you try new things, give them a chance, have an open mind about it, in many cases, they can end up surprising you. That one thing you were afraid to do, that one thing you were afraid to try, it could end up being the best thing that ever happened to you. Shit could end up changing your life for the better. But only if you're not afraid to leave your comfort zone. Only if you're not afraid to give something new a chance. Yeah, because when you explore the unknown and try the unknown, there's no fear of the unknown. Whether it turns out well or it doesn't, just trying it and experiencing it is how you get life experiences. Is actually how you live your life as opposed to just existing. And whether that new thing turns out well or it doesn't turn out well, just trying it is a good learning experience. And you can take what you like from it and what you don't like from it and move on to the next thing. But stepping out of your comfort zone and giving new things a chance, as cliche as it sounds, is what living is all about. Yeah, but not giving into that fear and trying something new can open up the doors to the life you never thought you could have, and also the life that could be a dream come true. Choice is yours. And another way to not let fear dictate your life and hold you back from living it is by believing in who you are. A lot of people tend to give in to fear and maybe not act on the things they should act on because they don't believe in themselves. They don't have the confidence that they need to fight back that fear and actually do the things that they're meant to do, that will empower their lives, that will better their lives and actually help them progress. But when you know who you are and you believe in who you are, and you know your value whether people accept you or they don't, then nothing can shake you. No fear of failure, no fear of making mistakes, no fear of the unknown. When you know who you are and you believe in that shit 100%, then that fear bullshit does not have a chance against you. But you gotta dig deep and you have to realize the value you bring to the table and what you are capable of. And not give in to the thoughts of, oh, I'm not good enough. Oh, I can't do this. Oh, I suck. Oh, I should just keep my head down and not get any other attention. Nah, bro. You got to hold your head up high and say it as loud as you can that I've got the power. I've got the power. I've got the power. I'm in charge. This is my house. I run shit. I don't bow down to fear. Fear bows down to me. And if you take that approach and you have that attitude, then you'll have no problems overcoming any of that fear and not letting it get the better of you. And lastly, the best way to not let fear dictate your life and hold you back from living it is by taking action. This also ties into what I said about a fear of making mistakes earlier, where a big reason why people maybe don't progress further in their lives and get as much accomplished is they have a fear of trying. And that's the thing. Regardless of how it turns out, you cannot be afraid to try. Regardless of how small or how big the situation is, the only way you are going to overcome it, the only way you are going to get past it, is by taking action and doing something about it. If you want that career you've always dreamed of, or to own that business you've always wanted to own, you have to take the action and take the steps in order to make that happen. If you like somebody and want to go out with them, you have to at least ask them out. If you want a new life and you want to start living differently, then you need to start doing things that are different. If you want to start losing weight and feeling better and get in better shape, then you need to start doing that shit. You need to start exercising. You need to start eating better. You need to start adopting better habits. You just need to take action. You can't let fear dictate your life. You can't let fear decide what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. You have to decide those things for yourself. You can't let fear be in the driver's seat. You need to be in the driver's seat. You need to be the one who does something about their situation. By taking action, even if you are afraid you might fail, or even if you are afraid of what's on the other side of it, then that's when you're actually living your life as opposed to just existing. Yeah, because one thing I've learned over this last year or so is that you feel a lot better and you have a lot less time to dwell on your fears and dwell on the things you're afraid of by just moving around and getting things done. The more you time spending that, the more time you spend having fun and doing things that you enjoy and that make you happy, the less time you have to think about all the bullshit that you're afraid of. And that's why I say by doing more and thinking and dwelling on your fears a little less, it'll weaken whatever grip that fear bullshit has on you. But the one thing you gotta do in order to make that happen is get your ass to work. Get shit done. It'll not only be rewarding, it'll not only make you feel fulfilled, but more than anything, it'll add years to your life as opposed to taking years away. So my final thoughts on this subject are this. As somebody who lived the majority of their life in fear and afraid of what could go wrong, I'm here to tell you that way of thinking and that way of life will not get you very far, and you will not accomplish very much. And worst of all, it's going to leave you with a feeling of a lot of regret and also the feeling of a lot of what ifs. But I'm fortunate enough that even at 37 years old, that I'm learning to break free of those bad habits of living in fear and being afraid of what could go wrong, and adopting an attitude of what could go right, and also the attitude of not being afraid of what the outcome will be. Because living your whole life in fear and living your whole life of being afraid of making mistakes and being afraid of what could go wrong or being afraid of rejection, that shit, as much as I will say for any other thing I talk about on this podcast, that shit is for the birds. Being someone who had to learn their lesson the hard way but is doing their best to make up for lost time, I can say that I like living my life not being so afraid of what could go wrong and having more of a hope of what could go right, a whole lot more than my life was when I was so afraid of everything. Yeah, because it sucks. It really does suck. I'll be the first one to tell you. If you remember the Chucky character from the Rugrats cartoon, he was always afraid of everything, and because of that, he had the least fun. And at 37 years old, even though I'm older now, I want to have some fun. I want to have a good time. I want to enjoy my life. I don't want to be afraid of what's going to go wrong. I don't want to be afraid of being rejected. I don't want to be afraid of making a mistake. I want to live. I want to party. And I sincerely hope all of you feel that same way. And for what it's worth, if you do, I want to party with y'all in person one day. Yeah, because we can't give that fear bullshit power over us. The more power we give to it, the more energy we give to it, the more inside we are going to die each day. And I'm not ready to die. I know many of you are not ready to die either. And I know death is inevitable, and I know death is something we can't avoid. But I want to live on this earth and be happy for as long as I can, and make the days I live on this earth count for as much as they can. And if more of us do that and live our lives to the fullest and don't live our lives in a way that's sheltered and afraid, then regardless of how long it lasts and how long we're here, those days we do have will be days that are worth living. Well, that's all the time I have for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this discussion. I know I did very much. And like I've said before, I'm not a licensed doctor or therapist, but I do have a lot of experience in my personal life going through these issues. So I like to use this podcast as a platform to help others in getting through these issues a lot easier than I did. And if you ever want to contact or talk to me in any way, shape, or form, you can follow me on my various social media sites, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Look up my first and last name, Kurt Cadet. Send me a friend request, message, what have you. Also, if you want to listen to this and more episodes of this podcast, you can listen to it on Spotify, Spreaker, and YouTube. Leave a comment on the episodes and let me know what you like about them and what you don't like about them. And for a long time to come, I will be talking about the many issues that deal with isolation and mental health, the effect they have on us, and what we can do to have a better understanding of it, to have a better quality of our lives in the future. So until next time, this is Conscious Kurt, aka Kurt Cadet, for another edition of the Isolation Cabin. Take care, have a good one, and don't give into that fear bullshit, because that shit is for the birds. See you guys next time.